You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the Meta. The Meta controls everything. The Meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
Hi! Welcome to The Meta Show. Because it is Easter weekend, there is literally nobody. There is nobody but Boat. That's it. That's all we got. God damn it, it's only Boat. And I'm half dead. So, yeah. Mittens isn't here. I went around and got like all these people. They're like, yeah, Boat, I'd love to come on the show. How about next week? Sorry. And I'm half dead, so God, I hope, yeah, we won't die. But the reason we're still having the show, normally when Mittens isn't here and there's no other guests, we would just call it a day. But the show was needed this week because there's a couple of key topics that I feel have to be gone over. Thank you, Victor Fell, for 45 months, and Iceburn, 53 months. Beautiful, beautiful. Wow, that's a lot. So what you're seeing right now is all of our guests at the bottom. Actually, those are all just my alts. Hey, Baby Blue Hippo, Zalman, and Manixcar, thank you very much for subbing 27 and 14 months respectively. So those are all my alts. I just felt we needed pictures at the bottom. And then you'll notice that on the screen over there to the right, we have an Eve character screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to fly around, and I'm going to show you just how empty space is in the drone lands right now. So we're just going to go fly around to Eve in my lovely interceptor while I tell you the news. I felt like this show still needed to go on today, even though we literally had nobody. As you can tell, it's just me on Discord. We may have a couple of people surprise us and stop by, but that'll be in a little bit. So, Eve news. Today's show is going to cover a few big things that are going on in Eve right now. So we're going to cover some pretty key topics as we go around on our spaceships. So today's show is going to cover wars that are currently going on. There's currently a war with Bot in the land of Bot, and there's also the Bot War, which is going down in Fraternity Space. So that's the big news. Excuse me. We also have some big news regarding the Fountain 3. I don't know what you call this big news. I think it's more... I don't know if you call it big news. Is more of like a story, not story. I don't know, like thing, not thing. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about Tranquility and Serenity and some huge news coming out of that. I got a nice little scoop for you guys. We have an NC Dot announcement, and then we're also going to talk about some CCP stuff. With CCP, please. So right away, we're going to start with our top story. Our top story today is War in Eve. I know there's not going to be anyone to bounce this off of, but I'm going to go run through it. And while I'm running through it, I'm just going to fly you around Bot Space. Since the topic is about Bot, we're going to fly around Bot Space. And I'm just going to show you just how bad the situation is in Bot Land. So this is Malpus. Current topic of discussion today is Bot. Bot is struggling. For those of you that don't know, they have been under assault from a 200-man alliance known as the Unspoken. They've been getting hit pretty hard in Spire. Spire is all but dead. If you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in Spire, Spire has been under pretty much daily assault. For those of you that like to see what's going on there, basically everything that's checkered and outlined is reinforced or being hit. iHubs are either dead or gone. The region is dead. I think there's literally one system in the entire region that still does ratting in the last 24 hours. So it's a pretty blank space. But the big news today coming out of the drones is that this week on Tuesday, NC Dot announced a huge deployment. Here's a Reddit post from one of their, I think this is a troll post, but I'm not sure. Basically calling out Unspoken and claiming that they were going to be purged from their space. As we know, NC Dot had this huge move up. NC Dot moved, but they only moved to Malpus. They didn't go on like this big warpath. They didn't go to Fountain like some people had expected. They didn't go down and help FRT. No, they plopped themselves in the middle of Malpus. According to the leader of Unspoken, or one of the leaders, the fighting since NC Dot has arrived is equated to about this. So this is it. This is all we got right here. You don't even see NC Dot involved. You see Pandemic Horde stepping in and kind of taking the reins of the fighting over the space. But this morning at downtime, for those of you that haven't been paying attention, we had an Azabel and a Fortizar belonging to Bot that was vaporized. NC Dot's defense amounted to nothing because 300 goons showed up. And on top of that, they also informed Bot, and Bot leadership informed their members that the all the members who don't put their timers in the timer board won't get saved. But the problem is both the Fortizar and Azabel had been in their timer board for a week. NC Dot just didn't give a crap to show up. For those of you that are just joining, the overlay is up. It's just me today. All these characters at the bottom are my alts. I just felt like having cool pictures there because we don't want to have an empty screen. So they're all me. So yeah, it's been a train wreck. Bot leadership has had to tell their guys, you know, hey, they've had to come up with excuse after excuse after excuse. Yeah, it's disgusting. I don't know how you can play a video game with this. If you notice, as we're traveling through space, you'll see there's a lot of goons in Malpus. Not a lot of other people. It's a mess. It's really a mess. It looks like I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know what NC Dot's plan was. I reached out to comment from NC Dot, and the only thing I got in reply was nothing. But we do have some NC Dot news that kind of segues from Bot or Brothers of Tangra. Is that NC Dot has announced, or Lady Scarlet, I should say. I mean, Lady Scarlet is kind of NC Dot at this point. That they are resetting GOTG officially, along with GOTG's renters. So this is the announcement from Lady Scarlet. GOTG renters will be reset, and all agreements will be ended. This does not take from our deployment, but if you rent systems, you need to make sure that you're aware that they are no longer blue. This was announced today, about 15 hours ago, or I guess yesterday. But this is not something that's new. We've been talking on the Meta Show for a while now. NC Dot hasn't really had relationships with Sort Dragon and Bot and company for a while now due to everything that's been going on with them. So it's not like this is new stuff. GOTG has been farming PanFam for about a month now. Oh, hi, it's K-Color. Hi, K-Color.
You looked so lonely, I had to show
what do you mean so lonely? I asked you earlier to come by, and you're like, yeah, no. So, I mean...
Yeah. And then I look at the stream, and I'm like, oh, he's got 4 guests. And I'm like, are those all his characters? You're like having a tea party with yourself.
And here's Sadis. Hi, Sadis.
Exactly. I saw 4 guests. I was like, boat's busy.
Yeah, at any moment, we're probably going to have Movement stop by, too, because Movement said he would stop by. Yeah, for the guests, or the people that are asking, I am sick. Yes. It went from bronchitis to something else. Like bronchitis to strep to this, whatever I have now. So, I have, like, 8 of these in my mouth right now to try and keep me from coughing. during the show. But anyway, bot's a mess. Sadis, you know a lot about this. How is getting all the bot people out of the Farmville that they're in and over to a safe haven and period basis going?
Well, we're certainly making progress, trying to help them as much as we can. We're having 3 or 4 corps a week come over right now. And as we're getting period bases set up as a rental mecca, there's a lot of work happening. So I have upgrades, ensuring that they have places to both mine, sell, and do their anomalies. I think they're in good shape. I'm getting good feedback right now. Thank you.
Nice. So yeah, the next topic, though, I guess this is a great segue. I like segues, so we're going to be segueing here, is what is coming to the game. And I was going to do this during the NullSec Power Hour, and I think I'll just click a button, because I was going to talk about Fraternity, but I'm going to skip them for a moment, because there's something more important to talk about.
What could be more important than Fraternity?
Well, you're about to find out.
Sweet.
PIBC, for those that don't know, that's Pan Intergalactic something. They are the powerhouse on Serenity's server. For those that don't know, they basically dominate 60% of all NullSec and have for the last few years. The Serenity BTAC R5 fight involved more Titan deaths than ours did, and while it didn't really make news, it was still something to watch. And with that said, they have announced, for those that haven't been paying attention, it's a business community, that's it, the Pan Intergalactic Business Community. They announced this week to what a lot of people thought was a joke, that they are coming to Tranquility.
Oh, it's no joke.
Yeah, so, what I mean is a lot of the Chinese guys that I talk to and hang out with, I tend to hang out with a lot of different groups in Goons sometimes just to chat with them. I found out this week that this was a thing. And at first, like a week or two ago, a lot of the Chinese community thought it was a joke. They thought they were just playing, that this was just going to be a thing. But then, out of nowhere, they had an alliance meeting. 2,000 people showed up to this alliance meeting. So think Goons, but the Chinese version, and said, look, we're going to Tranquility. So this is the information I have from a source who is very, very familiar. He used to be a leader in PIBC before he came over to Tranquility, and he's actually a really good friend. But his announcement is they're the Goons of Serenity. Most of their leadership already plays on TQ. They're either in Goons or they're in PLA's LoSec Corp. PLA's LoSec Corp currently houses the CEO of PIBC, and a bunch of their leadership FC types play in Goons. They've announced that they plan on immigrating. This is going to be coming in the next couple of days. Over 500 people have said that they're willing to move, and they're guaranteeing at least 300 are 100% going to move. This is huge. I don't know what'll happen, because the culture shock is it's very different culturally over here than it is on Serenity. For example, on Serenity, there are no roles. You can bot, you can RMT, you can share accounts. For example, the information I got said PIBC would have 300 super carriers, but only 30 guys actually own them all, and they would just account share the shit out of it. So you'd have 30 guys running 100 super carriers at a time, with no big deal. So that's something that they really can't do here very well, or at least not legally. And there's a lot of practices that PIBC made very popular over there that they can't really do here to help dominate. So it's going to be an interesting sight to see.
Isn't Rooks and Kings with them at this point?
Yeah, Rooks and Kings is over there, but I don't know if they're coming back. That's the question I have.
Isn't it another thing that PIBC coming over have also declared their intention to fight against RMT and botters?
We don't know. So I asked about this. So when I asked my source, he said that it's an interesting conundrum, because if you heard about on the Meta Show a couple weeks ago, we talked about the Chinese community and the way that they play the game. They're kind of like Russians. And so from what I'm told, these guys do not shoot other Chinese people. PIBC has a policy of no shooting Chinese. So kind of like how the Russians do it on Tranquility. So they tend to band together. The issue is here is you have one half of the Chinese community that does not like goons. That's fraternity. And the other half Chinese community is in goons or in PLA. And PLA is very, very friendly with goons. We have a really good relationship with them. So it's kind of half and half.
They're a member corp, so not just a relationship.
Well, but they also
inside of us.
Right, but they also have a very good low-sec group that they do, and they do a lot of their own things sometimes. So while they're part of the alliance, they tend to do their own things. But that's the thing, right? So what happens if PIBC comes over and makes their own alliance? Well, there's a lot of rumors about that right now, a lot of back and forth.
They already have.
Just a quick comment for our friends in chat.
The Mango Alliance.
I didn't think that was... Wait, really?
No, it is the Mango Army, something like that.
Yeah, they're coming over as the Mango Army. And it's
okay.
Like, Mango.
I got told they're gonna... Yeah, I got told today they're gonna start in low sec, and they're just gonna hang out in low sec and do low sec things for a while until they get their
Yeah, but let's be honest about it. It's like that's absolutely fine, and it's a very pragmatic move for them to get a sense of what's going on to get used to the metagame. But equally, let's also be honest about it. It's not as if there's a shortage of space in nullsec because there's still vast amounts of it that is being rented out.
Yeah.
What this tells me, having seen that they're all starting now, they're all going to want to grow their characters up really quickly. Now is the time to invest in skill injectors because they're going to come buying them.
Did you get that information from the CSM, Sodus?
Oh, no. I'm not on the CSM. I'm just a guy with an economics degree. I'm here to help the people make money. And if that makes me a bad person, that makes me a bad person. Right now is the time to invest in skill injectors.
Yeah, and did your uncle go to MIT?
I've never been to a class in MIT.
You can message Sadis if you want to buy any of those injectors, by the way.
So, again, this is a big deal because it brings fresh downtime fighting. So, downtime's always been a weird zone because the Chinese players coalesce pretty much with Melbourne and Japan and Korea, and it's always been a weird time zone. It's always really weird, and there's usually there is fights or there isn't. And the downtime populace or post downtime populace is pretty spread. I mean, you have some darkness guys that are pretty Australian time zone heavy because they're from Australia. You have a big group inside of the test group that are downtime heavy, and that's not about it. We have, of course, Chinese players and fraternity does, but
here's something to actually ask as well about. You know, we're starting to market Korea now with a whole bunch of Chinese players coming in. Does this mean a recalibration as to which time zone is going to be busy if we have a number of Korean new players and an entire alliance coming over that's in Chinese and in the Chinese time zone? Because I don't think we can call it AU time zone anymore if China and Korea are involved. Is this going to completely rebalance that whole section of the game?
I don't know. This is a diplomatic craziness, right? Like, because here's the thing. You already have Test reaching out to them, saying, look, we're offering you space. Fraternity fears them, right? Fraternity, for those that don't know the history of this, Fraternity came to Tranquility when it did because they ran away from PIBC. PIBC was such a huge dominant force on Serenity that Fraternity was choked out of their livelihoods on the game. So they ran to Tranquility. So now you have a situation where that threat is like, oh dear, how do we deal with this? Now, here's the thing, right? How much money are they going to pump into the game on Tranquility in order to become powerhouses quickly? Or are they going to go about it like a slow play, right? Like, are you going to see them skill inject straight to Munins and have an entire alliance, with Munins? Or is it going to be one of those things where they take their time, and do that? So it's gonna be interesting. I'm excited, and this is why this topic came up. Like I said, I've talked to some people this week. Even though I've been sick, I've been trying to get information about this because this is big. This could, I mean, they're saying that they don't want to fight Fraternity, they don't want to fight Chinese players, but the reason Fraternity is here is because of the constant fighting with this group.
Well, I have it on good kind of authority that the people of Fraternity are not even slightly worried about it, because obviously they've got ELO and Origin that are now part of Fraternity, and as we all know, ELO loves to, support the underdog. And I'm sure he's not being paid at all to actually be a member of Fraternity. And I'm sure that if he were to run for CSM this year, that he wouldn't be calling upon Fraternity members to vote for him.
Now, Moomin, are you saying disparaging things about Elo? Because it doesn't sound that way. And he's a hero. He's helping Frat just like he's helped so many people around the game. Elo is good.
I mean, of course, he's like, impeccable character and behaviour historically. Anyway, if you happen to be in the region of 03 TAC 4, which is Fraternity staging, always pop by, say hello. They're wonderful people. They have a warm welcome for you every single time.
I heard that they actually had a whole Ragnarok fleet on the move yesterday, and
yeah, they moved their supers
along with some other folks.
They moved supers, didn't they?
Yes, they did. I don't know anything, though. I just talk about period basis renting and stuff like that.
Which is a very good kind of rental system, because realistically, with everything that you get, I mean, it's not even renting, is it? I mean, it's almost as if you're being paid to come and live in that space.
No, you're literally buying. It's like a timeshare, much more than a rental. You have the ability to take advantage of
I like
all
that.
the goodness that is in period base.
Don't worry, guys. Matani will be back next week.
Yeah, Matani is not here. Like, I don't know where he is.
For those of you listening to Meta Show Bingo, Twist the Knife, No Future Plans, Locust Fleet. I probably just.
Do we even have a Meta Show Bingo?
You know, there's a Meta Show Bingo, and if there isn't, there's one being made right now. And his name was Brisk Rubal.
Yeah, so we do have some news, and we're just going to segue here. I don't even know what you want to call this. I asked some lawyer people, and they said this is very eerie of lawyer speak. Like CCP's legal team coming in and going, hey, this is what we're going to say. So for those that don't know, an announcement was made this week about the Fountain 3, that there will be a new investigation launched by CCP internally. So
when you say new investigation, what do you mean investigation?
Yeah, they didn't do it in the first place. But it says here we have a follow-up statement. We've held further discussions with the affected parties. We're also conducting an internal review of this to substantiate all the evidence available to us and to evaluate our handling of the situation. We intend to share a full follow-up next week. Everyone I've talked to that's a lawyer, I've asked like 6 different goon lawyers, they say that's literally lawyer speak for we're getting out in front of this now because it's a nightmare. What do you guys think?
Well, first of all, just to address one thing in chat, this is more like a Dunkirk and not a D-Day, but I thought it was exactly that. That was lawyers and executives posturing and overruling someone who made a rash decision at the ground floor. That's from a completely external point of view. That's what I think they were doing in that.
Well, I want to go around the room here in just a second because I definitely know Kid Color has opinions.
I may have one as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, definitely want to get yours then. But here's the
No,
part.
you don't, Moomin.
Here's the part that stands out in this announcement. It says, as soon as expected, or as should be expected, we will issue a full and frank apology for any mistakes for which we are responsible, as well as provide appropriate reparations to those affected by any erroneous actions we've taken. That statement is huge. My opinion of this is they rushed to ban. They banned first, asked questions later. They didn't really investigate. They assumed he broke NDA. They assumed that these two cheated. And then they banned them all. Now, from what I'm hearing, is that this big ban that came down will be overturned on the two FCs. But the Brisk part is still in the air on a technicality. So I'm kind of super curious at what you all think. Mr. K.
Shall I go first? Oh, well, no, K-Color then.
Yeah, we'll go. We'll go down the list alphabetically here. K. Color, go ahead.
I think it's CCP reaching out to Brisk, saying we're willing to get rid of these charges. Just avoid the legal stuff, not actually admit any fault, in case Brisk does go forward with the charges against whatever slander. Or what would it be?
Slander and defamation.
Because it's written.
Well, one of those things, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just them basically saying, this is going to get fixed. Please don't fucking sue us.
So, do you think that they apologize, though? Do you think they'll come out and say, oops, we're sorry, we made a mistake?
They will eventually, and I think that's only once, like, Brisk and his lawyers have said, okay, we'll accept this as an apology and not an admission of guilt and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, Mr. Moomin.
Okay, well, I've been following this one really closely because it was really interesting to me. Because for me, the CSM people, I think that they're between a rock and a hard place anyway, because they're supposed to be there as a conduit for the community, and it is impossible for any individual to know everything about the game. So with that in mind, there has to be some sort of like communication between CSM members and the community as a whole. So, sometimes information might get out just by the questions that you're either asking or you're not asking. I think that an apology is due for Brisk simply because they handled this differently to previous CSM members, having issues, and they should have simply just said, Brisk is no longer a member of the CSM, and we would like them to thank them for all their efforts in their time that they have been with us. And that's it.
You mean like they did with the other three?
Apologise for.
Yeah.
As for the rest of it, I don't think that litigation is even going to come into this, simply because litigation is a last resort. It shouldn't necessarily be the first resort. And I am pretty sure that once things have been looked at a little bit more, cool heads will hopefully prevail. And I think that one of the other really interesting things as well is one of the additions to CSM rules with regard to electronic devices. And I think that that's relatively key because I know that historically, some of the larger companies I've worked for, you would go into a meeting, say, for instance, like IBM, and you wouldn't be allowed to take in your iPhone because those damn things listen to everything anyway. And so, they used to ban electronic devices from ever even going into these sorts of things, which then brings up the issue of the responsibility of CCP in the training of their CSM members in actually helping them to not actually leak information either, intentionally. So, sometimes you might let something slip and, you need help and training and guidance as to what you can and can't do, or where you might even be going off on the wrong track. So I don't think that CCP is completely blameless in all of this either. As for the stuff going through to Pando, well, I kind of wish that Brisk, Pando, and others had actually just kept quiet. Realistically, they probably said more than I would have been happy about. But Pando said that he went from 2 billion to minus 10 billion, and let's be honest about it, in EVE terms, is like what, a 12 billion theft or like exploitation? That's nothing. It's like people do that on the market every single day. Let's not speak to Scooter, yeah.
Well, I mean, like 12 billion in terms of real money, according to what I'm told, is like $40. Like the cost per billion has plummeted so hard.
Yeah, and the other bit that really kind of concerns me is lifetime ban for Brisk and a year for Dark Shines and Pando, and that just felt like a little bit excessive. Maybe they should have taken the bans and then it get looked at and then like rolled back. But, I know that Commander A's has said that they have no intention of running for the CSM this year, because what is the point in getting involved in that stuff? Because it is a game, and, people want to help and they want to, contribute. And by all accounts, the CSM over the last few years has been very helpful in guiding CCP and stopping them from making, some terrible decisions along the way as well. And, it just seems foolish. It's like to volunteer for a job where you can be publicly hung, drawn, and quartered with no kind of recourse whatsoever, seemingly.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Sadis, tell us. What do you think?
Rephrase the question.
All right, so in regards to how all of this has gone down with the second statement now from CCP, what does that speak to you? What does that say to you?
Some frontline person, some CSM, whose job it is to review cases, made a decision and didn't take into account how those decisions might be affected, just made a snap decision, probably didn't have enough information to actually make the decision, and now it's being questioned. The only reason that it's out in the public is because the announcement was in the public, and we really don't know anything, which is good. We shouldn't know anything, and we don't have a right to know anything. But Brisk has a right to know what's going on. Pando, Darkshines, you have a right to know what you're accused with. So
Thanks,
I'm glad
Sean.
they're having a conversation, and the only way that CCP gets out of this cleanly is for those guys to come back, and if they have an appropriate penalty, they'll have that penalty, but they will need to make an apology. I have a feeling that they've already been told by their lawyers that they have a week to figure out how they're going to make restitution.
Yeah, see, I talked to some people, and this one was a lawyer type, and the way the lawyer type worded it is this is a lawyer coming out and getting in front of something, because if this does go to litigation, so some people in chat are going, oh, Texas law, it's international gaming. No, I can guarantee you that what Brisk has done, from everything that I've heard, again, this is all not 100% confirmed, but I guarantee you the man went and got a lawyer in Iceland, which means he now has local representation, just like you would if you're in the U.S. and you live in Ohio and get a lawyer in New York because you got a crime in New York, right? You get someone local who can handle the case. And the problem is when you get into litigation, you have something called discovery, where all the facts have to be laid out by both parties for all to see. And I highly doubt that CCP wants to have to lay out what they know and what they don't know, because there's a very real chance, based on everything I heard, that they really did a snap decision here, like you said, Sadis, and there really wasn't a lot of hard evidence. So if you go and have this all come out in the public eye, which is what happens if it goes to litigation, then it becomes a big problem for CCP, because now they have to reveal what happened.
When you started talking about discovery, I all of a sudden went back to the movie My Cousin Vinny, and I pictured you as Marissa Tomei telling people what was going on. So yes, you're my cousin Bodhi right now.
Yes, I love that movie.
You actually bring up a really good point about the discovery side, because CCP alluded to the fact that this issue was actually brought to them by CSM members. If that is the case, then there is equally a chance of, if it is found to be information supplied by CSM members, then if they were to do discovery, one of the things that I would be looking to do is go, okay, well, with this CSM member that actually brought this information to you, what other kinds of communications were there? Yeah, it's like, what other Discords or Slacks or kind of, any other kind of communication things are available that they were also party to, and to also seek information, for everything. So, hypothetically, if it is a hostile entity to like Brisk and his alliance, it could lead to being able to find out all of the information from their Discords as well.
Was it politically motivated, right?
It could turn to really spicy. But there again, I think that's all kind of like fantasy, realistically, and I'm still very hopeful that CCP, they said that they're going to release this, by the next week, and hopefully we'll have some sort of reasonable conclusion to this all.
Well, see, here's the big thing from what I heard too, and this is going to go tinfoil hattery, but this is coming from a very trustworthy source, I guess you could say, is that when it comes to the situation on the ground with the CCP thing, is that it's very possible that this information is coming from third party. For those that don't know, CCP has approved third party information in regards to evidence just recently. That's something that they had never allowed before. If you wanted to get, if you got into trouble in the game, it had to come from in the game. You couldn't just link a screenshot and be like, this guy's cheating. You had to prove it in game, or CCP just didn't really care about it. So that's a big deal in CCP's eyes. Now that you have third-party evidence, who knows what was done? Because as we've learned in the past, logs can be doctored very easily on Discord, on Slack, on anything. And so, yeah, this is going to be interesting. Again, we'll find this out midweek next week. CCP said give us 10 days. I think they said 10 days. Maybe it was 7. I don't know. So we won't find out today, but we will be finding this out sometime in the coming days. When that'll be, we don't know.
I think it's concerning because what a lot of people don't realize is this is how CCP normally does everything. If one dev says that this person broke the rules, the other devs are going to back them up. And so to a lot of people that have had no recourse like Brisk does, and Brisk probably wouldn't have even had recourse if they hadn't said that he broke the NDA, if they had just said he's banned. This is how they do it, and this is what a lot of people complain about, is that CCP just makes this decision. There's no evidence. They won't give you any evidence. And Brisk is kind of just the first person that's able to actually do something about it.
Okay, so S. Dandy points out, and we'll go ahead and take questions on this because this is a big deal. He says, what are you guys even talking about? CCP ban people whoever they want all the time. Yes, the problem is not that they banned Brisk. The problem is they publicly came out and said he violated an NDA that he signed. For those that don't know, NDAs are big deals in real life. NDAs can prevent you. You break NDA on one thing, I can guarantee you're not going to be able to get another NDA somewhere else. That's just the way that NDAs work. So, if you come out and you publicly say, this guy broke NDA, he definitely broke NDA, and then 2 weeks later you come out and say, oh, well, he didn't technically break NDA. We went on third-party evidence, and we found after an internal investigation that he didn't break NDA. That's huge, right? Because 2 weeks is a long time in media cycles. He's already had 5, 6, 7 major articles, including Vanity Fair, that have said that this guy, Brisk Rubal, is a dirty Republican lobbyist who cheats in video games like he cheats in real life. So when you have something like that, when you have that level of veracity in the stories, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later it's, oh, oops, we didn't really investigate this properly, and now we're finding out that no, he didn't really break any NDAs. That can be big.
So, Bo, one of the other things that I'm hearing from the anti-Brisk movement is that him saying that who he was, it's his fault that it's public who he is, and that means that it shouldn't matter that he happens to have his real-life personality tied to his character. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use this word, but a bullshit argument. By putting his name out there, he's making it even more clear that his obligations are things he'll stand behind. So he was doing a good job of representing everybody. But my point here is, by having his name public and having him as a lawyer, it puts his career in the target if he's found guilty of doing something by a completely arbitrary process. And the great point that I've seen a couple people make on comms is an NDA is a legal document, and if you're going to get accused of breaking an NDA, and that is finding you guilty of doing something, then that can have so many repercussions, and no court in the world should be able to say that without having evidence.
Right, like,
I would like to add to that bit is, first of all, any legal contract that you sign with, like, anyone, NDAs, like business contracts, whatever, there's normally a section in it which will be in reference to seeking a remedy. So if one side or the other feels that the contract has been broken, then there is normally a course through, say, like an arbiter to actually resolve any of those sorts of things. What CCP actually did was said that one party broke an NDA, and it hasn't been inspected by any third party or any arbiter. We don't know what that process necessarily really is because we can't see it. And I think that's a very important thing to remember, in conjunction with the fact that just because a legal document, an NDA for instance, has certain language in it, does not mean that that language is enforceable. I mean, that's why you have that get-all section in a contract which says that if any part of this document is found to be incorrect through a court, then the whole document isn't just thrown out because of this one little section. So and that's pretty standard language as well. I say I would have just liked to have seen Brisk to have just respectful and reasonable treatment through the NDA, where they could have said, okay, well, we're removing your roles, there's some allegations that are being levelled at you, do you have anything to discuss about this? And irrespective of that, if they did remove Brisk ultimately after a thorough investigation as to whether or not he did anything wrong, that they just did the same as they did for previous CSM members and just say they're no longer on it, and that's it.
See, that's the thing, and K Color brought this up last week, is that CCP have this two-tiered justice system with this. I think Manny's an okay guy. I've known Manny now going on 12 years. I've been dealing with Manny. Manny, I believe, was on the CSM and got removed very quietly. It was, hey, Manny's no longer on the CSM. We thank him for his service. Bye-bye. Right? You have no idea why he was removed. It could have been because Manny chose to quit. It could have been because Manny was removed. We don't know. At the time, he was in, I believe, PL or NC Dot, one of those two. Who knows? There was lots of talk about it. Same thing happened with two other CSM members that were removed. Okay? They were pulled out of the CSM. They were thanked for their service. Off they went. There has been several high-profile bans. I talked about this last week. Norris, the FRT CEO, was banned for RMT. He still leads FRT and still runs the place. So while on one end of the spectrum, the Brisk may or may not have broke NDA, and if he did break NDA, okay, what he did was wrong. But if he didn't break NDA, even if he did or didn't, this is an unprecedented handling of his ban, right? They've never, ever, in the history I've played this game, come out like this and said, here's why we're banning him, here's the reason, without actually giving a real reason, right? They're just like, oh, he broke NDA, boom, ban. And then when they banned Pando and Darkshines, they said we're banning other players and we've confiscated ISK and assets. But everything you have, everything that people have looked at, everything that people have seen, both in initiative and outside initiative, there's no evidence to support this, right? It's not like both of these players were sitting on 500-600 billion ISK from something they did illegally, and then all of a sudden they're negative 500-600 billion, right?
I mean, it's nothing like. Do you remember the I Want ISK bans? The ones that were done by the security team. Then they were overruled by a high-level CCP exec, and then they were reinforced about 4 or 5 months later. And
trillions of
people got neg-walleted through all of that. And yet we didn't have the same kind of discussion that's been going on this time round. So there again, all I look for realistically is a bit of a mature approach to this, to just be sensible, consistent. And I had hoped that CCP had matured by just it's a game. We play it because we like it. We don't necessarily play it because we're looking to metagame to that degree. If you see what I mean. It just feels a bit silly.
No, I wouldn't say that though, because here's the thing. The problem is that, like any game, and let's be honest, this is a video game. CCP have the right to ban anyone for any reason. Fine. There's a lot of people, and Brisk included, that said, look, if you RMT, if you bought, CCP bans you, you should have no say, no judgment, nothing. Boom, done, gone. Fine. That's a good view to have. But this is different, okay? It's one thing if you violate in-game rules and you RMT, or you violate in-game rules and knowingly exploit, and CCP catches you in-game, or if you threaten someone's real life in-game, like GigX did, and CCP catch you doing it. Fine. But this reminds me of something Victor Veld just said. No Scion's policy. CCP didn't explicitly say that Scion could not be part of the CSM. They went about it in a very convoluted, very haphazard way that led to a lot of people scratching their heads. This reminds me of that, right? For those that don't know, the No Scion's policy was basically, there was a point in time in INN's history where CCP, a certain select couple of CCP members, I'm not going to say who, one or two CCP members who did not like INN. We were brutally honest here on INN about how we approach the news. If somebody messes up, we're going to say they messed up. And we're brutally honest with it. And these CCP members did not like that. And at the time, Scion was one of the leaders of INN and dealt with INN very seriously. And the CCP made a rule saying that if you are part of the gaming media who cover more than just EVE Online, you're not eligible to be on the CSM because you obviously don't consider EVE your sole purpose, or some crazy rule like that. And the thing about that is everyone knew that it was a targeted ban against one person, because it's not like they went after the guys at EVE News 24 who also covered other games. So
I want to kind of answer this, but in a slightly different way, okay? Because if you look at the Brisk incident, there are obviously a number of people who have been more than happy that the Fountain 3 actually got banned. They've been over the moon about it. But I know that Norris, the leader of Frat, who obviously has done, got banned for RMT and for, admits to botting or whatever it was, these same people that are saying, Initiative are terrible people are supporting Fraternity. And I don't understand that. It's like, how can one party be, able to do all of these things and get support from these people, and yet, Initiative 3, they're the guys that are, being lambasted by these very same people. Doesn't that strike anyone as, I don't know, maybe a bit hypocritical?
I think it's ignorant.
It's what?
Ignorant. Ignorant.
Why?
Well, if the same rules don't apply to two sets of people, and you're the one complaining, when you benefit from it, you say it's okay, and when you don't,
yeah,
you're ignorant.
But this leads to the next question is okay, let's say, all right, that CCP comes around and says, okay, look, we're going to go unban you guys because we're pretty confident you guys didn't do any wrong. What happens at that point? That's the question I had last week, and this is the question I have this week, is if these bans get overturned, I know I've heard that Brisk only wants an apology, but how does CCP go about banning people in the future if we look at this statement right here and it says, oh, we're conducting an internal review of this ban because we're not sure if we did the right thing? It's like, doesn't that scream, okay, what about all your other bans?
No.
Or is this case special?
Saying we're not sure if we followed policy, and since this is new, we're going to walk this one back. They'll just, if they want to keep themselves so that they can ban whoever they want, they just say, yeah, we found an irregularity in how this was conducted, and we've amended the policy to fix it. Okay, great. Done.
Okay, so then, is there any repercussions for someone at CCP that may have banned it?
Probably not. I mean, we have to remember that, it is CCP's game, it is their intellectual property, and they get to choose who they actually do business with at the end of the day. Yeah. So, and do you know what? That's kind of fine. But as I say, it's like, I don't think that this is particularly good form, shall we say, in an area where it's very important, I think, to actually have good customer relationships and, arguably a bit of transparency. And that goes for, I know other people that have suffered bans in the past because of allegations that have been levelled at them, where they did not do those things. It almost seemed silly for CCP to actually ban them. But as I say, it's CCP's game. It's their thing. They can do what they want pretty much.
Yeah.
But if they do this and, it is so inconsistent and it is potentially, and their whims for, who they like and who they don't like, ultimately that's not going to be particularly healthy for the game and attracting new players, because what's the point in investing in anything if you can just be thrown off because people don't like you or of unsubstantiated accusations or what have you.
This brings me
it's kind of like breaking up with your girlfriend on Valentine's Day. She might need to get broken up with, but you don't have to do it on Valentine's Day because it's bad form.
Right. Like while you're at dinner, enjoying a good meal. Or it's like I watched this one guy, he's like, I paid for Wi-Fi just to show you this, and it was they're on a flight to a vacation, and the guy breaks up with his girlfriend mid-flight. You know what I mean? I don't feel like that's something you would do.
Well, it's let's be honest about it. It's a somewhat petty level, realistically. Although I with the Valentine's thing, I'm thinking, well, if they're paying for dinner, it's a free dinner, isn't it?
Right. But
there's no such thing.
Here we go. It says this seems to me to be a metagame to play discredit the CSM as a whole. No, I don't think so. No. What I think happened here is, and again, this is just a personal feeling based on everyone I've talked to. A CSM member may reach out to CCP. This could have been a newer CCP employee, maybe someone who hasn't been around as much, maybe someone that's kind of newish to the whole way things go about. That CCP employee had the ability to ban people, went to the security team, said, look, this is a guy we need banned. He broke NDA. Maybe he didn't have all the evidence. And this second post screams to that. To me, it tells me that there just wasn't everything there. That there's more that's needed. That the investigation wasn't handled properly. It was, oh, hey, yeah, that's definitely this, and this. We'll see. We'll know next week, especially before the meta show. It's going to be huge because here's how I see it. And this is my opinion because I'm running the show. If CCP bans them all, publicly apologizes to all three, it's going to look really bad. Oh, hey, it's Killer B. It's going to look really bad because that tells us, without even having any information handed to us, right? Even if they share absolutely nothing, that tells me that CCP did not investigate this. They took whatever evidence was given to them at face value, and that's it. But here's what I'd like to see. And I don't think this will ever happen, but this is what I prefer, what I'd like to see come out of this. I would like to have CCP come out and be like, okay, the evidence that was given to us by the following CSM member. We feel that it's necessary to inform the player base that we went based on evidence that was given to us by this CSM member and that CSM member, and this is why we did what we did. We apologize for anything that came about because of it, because the evidence looks solid on paper. That would be a dream. Now, are CCP going to throw that CSM member under the bus? I doubt it, right? I don't think CCP...
No, I don't see that as happening, but what I can tell you for certain is in 5 years' time, when the current members of the CSM are no longer under the UK, we will get to probably find out exactly what happened.
Oh, yeah.
We've only got 5 years to wait.
Well, here's the thing. Basically every CSM member has denied that it was them that gave the information to CCP. So if you're on the CSM, how the fuck do you trust people anymore? Regardless if this gets overturned or not. How do you trust anyone? How can you work with these people now that basically CCP has said that the CSM has brought this to them, and then everyone on the CSM is saying we didn't bring it to them?
Well, better yet is, what if, now of course we can't say this because as we heard from Michael Chen today at the Fireside, he cannot talk about it, right? Like, even if he knew, he couldn't talk about it. The thing that gets me is I guarantee you all the CSM know what went down, how it went down, who was responsible, which CSM reported it, which one didn't. The thing is how do you, let's say that person gets reelected next year. How do you work with that person knowing that they can be, and look, I work with kids, so they use this term a lot, snitches, right? Like, you can make one little minor mistake, and that person, because they maybe have a vendetta against you, is going to try their best to get you screwed over, right? They're going to go to CCP, they're going to present what they think is a rule-breaking offense, and if it's not, does CCP handle it correctly? Like, that's the problem here, is how do you work with that CSM member in the future? Not even CCP. I mean, I understand CCP. A lot of people are pretty upset about the way this was handled, but that's the interesting thing with politics here, because you don't control.
Yeah, but that's the thing that's been constructed realistically by the E-player base as a whole, because we've seen dominance in the CSM from the nullsec power blocks, because they are the most organised in actually getting their people to actually vote for their candidates. We already know that there are more players in HiSec than there are in nullsec. So the reason that HiSec doesn't have any representation necessarily is because they choose not to. So basically, it's kind of a democratic process, but ultimately, you can't complain about it if you aren't even using the vote which you're given.
Yeah, this...
Quit making sense.
Sorry, it's a terrible habit, I know.
A lot of people, too, this week and last week want to say, okay, this gives us an excuse to bring down the CSM, right? We can't believe the CSM anymore. It's a failed state. I don't think so.
The CSM
I don't think it is.
It's already been shown to have been really beneficial to us as players, from HiSec, LowSec, NullSec. You can't say that CSM members haven't actually tried to warn CCP about certain gaming mechanics which have changed over time. I think that CSM is a beneficial thing, and the people that do it must love it, or why would they do it? Because to me, it just seems like another job, a job that you don't get paid for, and one that potentially you get hassle from CCP, you get hassle from the player base, and it's a case of it seems a pretty shitty job, realistically. So I can only imagine people doing it if they love it.
We're almost out of time here.
Can you imagine going to your girlfriend and saying, "Hey, I'd like to be on the CSM. It's another job that I don't get paid for, and it's going to take up 2 weeks of vacation a year plus a couple $1,000. Is that okay?" Imagine trying to sell that.
Yeah,
and this is why I'm single.
No, but here's how I see this. A lot of people say, okay, there was a lot of hate directed at Brisk, right, with all this. But here's how I see this, and this is how I think CCP could have went about it a little better. If CCP had came out with their standard, hey, we banned 2 players, and we banned a guy in the CSM, we appreciate that he worked with us, but he's gone. We've removed him. That would have been cool, right? And then, go to Brisk quietly and say, yo, Brisk, we know that you violated NDA. Here's what we know. As long as you don't talk about it, we'll just part our ways amicably, and this will be the end of it. That would have been it, right? You would have never had any news. You would have never had any gaming news. You would have never heard anything from Brisk or people defending them or saying it wasn't me. It would just been that, just like every other removal from the CSM has been, right? That's a better way to handle it. I don't think they did. I don't know, but we're out of time. Time flies.
We are indeed, and I'd like to kind of just point out that I was very upset to see that Northern Coalition had hassled Rote Capel in order to get rid of Wally from posting on Reddit. I think that's a travesty that NC should leverage such things against such a small group in order to get a narrative under control.
That's pretty horrible.
It is. It's a terrible thing, isn't it? I mean, there should be some outrage about that, shouldn't there?
I'm pretty outraged about it. But here's something I want to share real quick as we go to call it a day here. CCP has announced that CCP Gamer got it wrong. Project Nova has not been canceled. It's still going to happen. It's still ongoing. So there's a quick quip about that. Also, that due to server issues, We didn't really talk about this because I don't really care about Elite PvP too much. Due to server problems, CCP was forced to delay an Elite PvP tournament known as Streamfleet something or other. I don't even know. A bunch of people who think they're self-important are pretty upset that they couldn't play video games, I guess. I don't know. Not important. But there you go. There's the news.
Streamfleet do a really nice job. Leave them alone.
Right. But that's it. We're done. Thank you guys for hopping in. I kind of thought I'd had to do this alone, so it made time fly a lot better.
We couldn't let you just be on your own boat. It's like God knows where you would have gone. You would have been would have been publishing dick pics like you did.
That been literally like taping you in solitary confinement and just seeing where your brain went as you had to talk for an hour.
And no one deserves that.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Thanks, K-Color and everyone, Moomin, Sadis, for stopping by. Next week, I will say this. Next week, we're going to have an interesting show. I have some Russian friends stopping by. They're going to tell us all about this new Russian coalition that's been formed that's currently fighting FRT. We're also going to have potentially some Chinese players stopping by to let us know how this PIBC thing is going. And we're also going to have an unspoken guest again next week, and potentially Laserhawks. So an action-packed week next week. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Deathlock, for subscribing for 29 months, man. Also, anything else before we go, you guys?
Oh, good. Right.
Join
pretty good as well. It's like,
join Period Basis.
That's it. It's like, if you want to rent, contact Sadis. Aside from that, I wish everyone to have a very goon holiday season.
Yeah, happy Easter.
From the good folks in Period Basis. We'll be bringing you moons at the best deal in all of New Eden.
Oh, where's Grand Nagus, Sadis? Have you spoken to them recently?
Not.
Oh god, I'm out.
Bye, guys.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.